Get me to crying with Purple Rain on there. My start in footwear by an accident. I was in High School of Art and Design, and I thought I wanted to be an architect because architects make money, right? So I was pretty much an artist all my life. Again, got to high school, I said, architecture's where it's at. I want to make some money. That's what they do, and I figured I could make money with this. That was a great thought, but then through some programming error, I got into something called industrial design, and I didn't know what that was, and you know, I was a little bit upset about that, and I was pretty studious, and I went to the back of the classroom, and I basically was in the back sulking, you know, and finally, after like a week or so, the teacher came up to me, he said, what's your issue? What's your problem? He says, you know, why aren't you participating? I said, you know, it's no disrespect, but I wanted to be in architecture, and I'm in industrial design. You're here making clay pots. I don't understand what this is. So he says, well, industrial design is the architecture of things around you. And that's the way he said it to me. And automatically it opened my eyes, because he said, look around you. What's around you? He said furniture, lighting, pens, computers, cars. All of these things are around you. And I became very engaged with it, and I got very excited. And from there, I started to get into the class more, obviously. I had mentors come from Pratt Institute to talk about how they did car design. And I thought, wow, like I want to design cars. So I said, that's got to be my path, and I want to go to Pratt Institute. So, you know, I got into Pratt, and that was my path. I got into industrial design, and I did transportation design. And then those same mentors, they were at car companies, and they came back to Pratt, and they said, I work at Chrysler and Ford. And I thought, wow, that's what I wanted to do. Around junior year, senior year, basically we took a field trip out to Detroit, to the car companies. And at that point, as a native New Yorker, like Detroit was like the sticks. Like I was like, wow, there is nothing going on here, you know? And so it wasn't as interesting, and it didn't seem so cool. So I remember coming back to New York, telling my professor about it, and my professor said, you know what, if you guys don't do cars, you should do shoes. And I was just like, dude, does he know who my parents are? Huh? I'm about to get my doot kicked, right? Because I'm gonna have to tell them now, this is my path, and you said you wanted this, and you guys know how parents are, right? But it was related, and it was cool. The same whimsical drawings that we do for vehicles are the same selling point whimsical drawings that we do for footwear. And I began to get into it. Getting closer and closer to graduation, I entered an Adidas contest. And guess what I won? Somebody from the audience, you in the back, guess what I won?
Sneakers.
No. You in the back. What did I win?
Scholarship?
Nope. Anybody else? Okay. Guessing is done. There's too many people in the room. So what I won was nothing. Imagine that, nothing. But with that same nothing, I took that project that I did at Adidas, and I sent it to Fila. Just out of the blue, sent it to Fila. And my would-be boss, he called me, and I was working at it's called a point-of-display purchase company. So you guys know when you go to the supermarket, you go through the aisles, there's like a cardboard display of like Goya. You know, you pick out a seasoning and whoop, The next one just drops down. It's like a gravity drop. I was designing those for about a month. Get this call. He says, hey, can you come down? I was like, well, I work. Silly me, right? I'm like 22 years old. I'm like, I got a job. I can't come down. Never heard of a sick day, anything like that. God be praised, I'm not sick, right? You know, I don't need sick days, and I didn't know how it worked. Anyway, went down an evening meeting, and I was really cool. Like, I didn't know nothing about really like interviewing. I never really had an internship, so I saw this gentleman, and I kind of looked like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, man. I had like a tie on with a twisted cap, and you know, I came in and I greeted him, and he said, hey, and he was working on a shoe, and I was so happy to meet with this character. He was drawing with his left hand. You know, he's a total artist. Guy from Boston. He had frazzled hair, and his glasses, his reading glasses, were white. They were welder's goggles that he made. So we had like a 20-minute conversation just on his glasses and, you know, his creativity. And I thought, this is great. So we're sitting down, we're talking to him, and he gave me a project. And it was just the way we'd start off industrial design stuff. By the way, he also went to Pratt, and he also came through the ID department. So, you know, we had that synergy. He gave me a stack of motocross magazines. And he said, Greg, go away with these magazines. Come back to us in about 2 weeks. And he said, and charge us something for it. All right? And I said, oh, wow. You know, I left, and I said, wow, I'm going to charge him something for it. I'm not going to tell you guys what I charged for it, because it's a disgusting amount of money. It's very little, you know. But anyway, I came back to him in 2 weeks, and I showed him the stuff, and he said, we're prepared to hire you. He came in with a marketing person, and he said, talk it over with your mom. You know, they saw that I was young and kind of green, and I said, I'm not talking to my mother. I take the job. Not talking to my mom about that, right? So I took the job, and that was probably 21, 22 years ago. And I've been in footwear ever since. So it's a marvelous career. It has permitted me to travel overseas. I've been to China a bunch of times, Korea, Japan, Indonesia, you know, Hong Kong, like great places. And, you know, at a very tender age, you know, I felt blessed to be able to do footwear development in these countries and get to learn and expose myself, you know, to that world. So that's pretty much my story. I mean, all the way up until now, I've been at various companies: Fila, Fubu, Fat Farm, Kenneth Cole Reaction, Unlisted, Sean John. I've done private label for Payless. Worked on a little bit of Calvin Klein. I got bored with footwear for a while. I actually designed a bag for Nautica. So I was designing at a company that did a few brands, and I was in charge of Trump luggage, whoops, and Nautica, right? And so I did that, and I had an opportunity to teach it at FIT, and that's where we come today. Hello, how you doing? Right? So I had the opportunity to do that, and that was about 6 years ago. Another blessing, I've been invited to teach so far at my alma mater, Pratt, which was now two years. So I teach sophomore drawing there, and I just wanted to, you know, give a demonstration on footwear. How's that? Awesome.
Wonderful, wonderful. Interesting.
There's a test. Now, what did I just say, young lady? Huh?
06.
Said there were many blessings. I came in at many
Blessings. That's where we at. Okay, awesome. We'll take it from there. So I just want to. Some people have like a mystique, like a whole thing about sketching, and one of the things that I've learned about sketching, you know, through practice, you know, you have this gift and this talent in your household. You know, me, I was youngest boy, the quote-unquote only artist in my family. Please don't tell my sisters that. If they should ever see this, they'll come in here and like run me over because they think they're artistic, but they're not. But anyway, they say that, you know, sketching is a dexterity-based activity. So the more that you practice it, the more that you'll get better at it. So it really has nothing to do with your, I'm not an artist, I can't draw. You know, there's something in your mind, and there's something about, you know, getting your hand fluid in the motion. Why don't you come a little closer so we can understand it. So I can show you guys pictures of things that I've sketched. You know, hand sketches, life sketches, you know, things that I've done, you know, just in pen. You know, sometimes I use just pen. You know, people think I have a pencil, I can erase, you know, things of that nature.
So Ray Donovan, right?
Yeah, that's Ray Donovan. And this is just a friend of mine on Facebook. You know, I'll tell you the story later. No, I'm just kidding. This is pencil.
That's good stuff.
And then these are kind of more ideational sketches. These are just fragmented cubes, okay, where I would just like do sketches to warm up my hand. Welcome. Sketches of glass, you know, how that would, you know, all of these rules to art, you know, how do you see objects that are clear, you know, how do you see objects that are reflective, you know, things of that nature, right? You know, and then I have a couple of shoe doodles in here, you know, so again, just pen and ink, you know, just stuff that I was thinking about. It's all about thinking and practice at the same time. So here I have something that's like more very sketchy, but like a total project. So I came up with something, and I thought about the brand last, right? And it happened to be Adidas is what it ended up being. So I call it like the Hazard, and it's just basically a sketch that I started thinking about fitness and working out, and some people can't make it to gyms, and so I was thinking of series of like bungee cords that you could attach basically to your other foot and hook it on and kind of do like lunge things, you know, just kind of like pull you know, your legs out and sort of get like these sequences going for you know, movement and exercises. So again, it's industrial design, it's footwear, everything is, you know, all about thinking. So I've done these again, some doodles. So I just wanted to like show you guys, you know, again, like these little hand sketches that I do. Some of them become like vignettes and renderings and things of that nature. It's a project that I'm working on. But I wanted to get everybody warmed up, and I'll give everybody a chance to draw. So the first thing I do when I'm drawing footwear is, it's nice to draw on regular copy paper, 8.5 by 11, because you can move your page plane around, right? So if you think about drawing and what your arm does, a lot of people draw and they sketch like this. And if you think about what your hand is doing, it's a lot of wrist movement, and it takes away from, you know, your ability to put what you want on your page. I try to enforce like arm movement, especially when it comes to straight lines. So if I'm doing a cube, in perspective, I'll kind of like air draw it, you know, and then I kind of do what I call coming in for a landing, right? So if I'm drawing it in perspective, do you guys see that? How I'm just, right? So I'm using like a 3-point perspective. Again, I'm just flipping that page plane around, right? And as you can see, it's turning out to be like a cube. And I'll just darken the edges, you know, to get that sense, right? So again, I'm allowing my arm to be used as opposed to my, you know, when you get really painstaking about like your hand. I mean, there are areas of detail where you can do that, but you have more control of it after you get what you want on that page plane, right? So basically a cube in space, right? So now, you know, if I want to draw like shoes, right, I could use that, but if I'm drawing just the profile view of a shoe, I start what's called a ground plane. Like a lot of people need a ruler to make a straight line. You don't need it, right, because your arm is just moving across, just like that, right? I take a bunch of passes to make that said straight line, all right? All right, so now I start off upholstering the shoe with, you know, I think about the foot, you know, obviously. So I think about the heel. I think about the toe spring. Every shoe has a toe spring, right? I think about what's called the vamp or the instep, right? So you have that basic shape that like a foot would fit in like 3 basic movements, right? From there, I'll start to create, you know, like if I'm gonna do a low profile shoe, a trainer, a low cut shoe, I'm gonna start to make this geometric shape of like a triangle that would be in there, okay? That leaves room for the ankle bone, right? See that little ankle bone here? Right, so when I get that ankle bone in there, I know that that has proper space so it won't irritate the foot. If anything's against your ankle, it will irritate the foot. So if basketball shoes, they're like 3/4, but that's more padded, so it covers the ankle. So it's a little bit more. Spider-Man! How you doing?
No, I'm chilling.
You know what, Spider-Man? You're Bob. I can tell by that walk. Anyway, so now I'm going to upholster the shoe, right? And I'm going to start to draw in some curves. Again, lots of passes, right? Right? More and more shaping of a shoe. Maybe I'll put an arch in. I'll start to break down where that lies. I'll cut that in half. Maybe an arch lands right there. I'm thinking of training. Again, look at my arm, right? I'm just overstating what would happen. I'm doing like a typical drop heel, formula for running, you know. And then what happens on the shoe is protection, right? So we want to protect the toes, right? We want to protect the heel, right? Everybody has on a shoe. Most shoes have a harder heel counter. Even if it's soft materials on the outside, I don't know about you, Spider-Man, right? But when you fold down the heel counter, it won't let you fold to a certain extent. You could test that out right now. So I'll just make that heel counter. I'll protect the toes with what's known as a toe cap, right? I will... Batman, you're talking during the presentation?
I do apologize, Mr.
I'll go on. So now we have an eye stay where the laces go through. Eye stay, right? And then you have what's known as a collar. Again, padded protection, right? So you have these areas that upholster the shoe. What's left is this area here known as the quarter. So that area is pretty much where you would have like a logo, right? Anybody in here ever heard of Nike? Right? Adidas, right? So maybe I'll just drop in what would be an area of their logo, right? So there'll be like a swoosh right in there. And then maybe I'll just drop it down and have what's known as the lugs or the traction motif of the outsole, right? And I'm just using pen, guys, right? So that's that. And then I could draw this same shoe as a 3/4 using this cube as a standpoint. So again, I'm going to start off with ground plane, and I'll come up a little bit for my perspective drawings, and then I talk about elliptical shapes, right? So when you're doing your elliptical shapes, I move my arm from left to right, right? So left to right, right? I call it eggs, right? Anybody like breakfast? Eggs? 2 eggs? 2 eggs right here for breakfast. Boom. So you have your eggs, and that's starting to show off, you know, how your shoe will sit in space. So now I'll do the same things that those 3 things. Heel counter, toe spring, and vamp. right? Once I do that, I start to kind of see it a little bit, right? I start to automatically see that, and then I'll just like figure it out. The only thing that you have to do here different is know that everything is a little bit off-center. Right, so I'll put in the collar, the tongue. Everything else now will respond to being in 3D. So if I do like a pull tab on the back, that tongue, I'll do toe cap, outsole. Again, a couple of sweeps, right? I'll open up what's known as the throat area, the U-throat. You have your eye stay. I'll put that swoosh in kind of early. Let's see, I'll just do a counter. And then I'm gonna do, the eye stay comes down like this. So you're just following the basic drawing that you have up above, right? And your lacing system would land right in here. And I'll just do some X's in perspective, because later on, guess what? I could like go around that and really upholster that to be a thicker lace. Right? So then you have your 3/4 view of a shoe in space. Everybody ready to try it? Put your eyebrows down. You got this.